Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has done this show, and the interview that I did with him was actually featured on The View. And my opinions on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have not changed very much. There were times in the past where I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I give him none now. I've always said that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an opportunist. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. only cares about himself. He wants to be in power. He has a tremendous ego, and he's used the last name of his family for personal gain. He is also a conspiracy theorist and a liar and a habitual cheater, just like a Pete Hegseth. Now, the Republicans are going to vote this guy in no matter what because they're afraid of Donald Trump. We all know they have no backbones, but there are a lot of Democrats out there that are not tough enough either. But one of those Democrats that I do have respect for, because I thought he did a really good job today, was Senator Bennett. He grilled RFK Jr. on some of his past remarks, and he perjured himself. Here is Senator Bennett grilling RFK Jr. and RFK Jr. lying under oath. I'll explain. Have a listen to this.
Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people, but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed that.
I'll take that as
certain
yes.
races
I have to move on, I have to move on. Did you?
He absolutely said that, caught on video. He didn't read a study and then say, I don't know whether I agree with that or not. Here's what this study said. That is not what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did. He is a liar and a scumbag. He's caught on video. Somebody recorded it on their cell phone saying that COVID targeted certain ethnic groups.
Vaughn, did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
Insane.
Okay, I want all of our colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes. Did you say that exposure to pesticides causes children to become transgender?
No, I never said that.
Okay.
That is a lie. He just perjured himself under oath. How do we know this? There's video all over social media. He absolutely said that, which is, by the way, crazy, absolute insanity, and it's not true. He just perjured himself under oath. Does anybody in this country care about this? Am I the only one? There's video of him literally verbatim saying what Senator Bennett alleged he said. It's on social media. You could just Google it. It's everywhere. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has to know that, yet he's lying under oath. Does that make any sense to any of you at all? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I never said that.
Okay, I have the record that I'll give to the chairman, and he can make his judgment about what you said. Did you write in your book, and it's undeniable, that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm not sure if I made that.
Okay, I'll give it to the chairman, Mr. Kennedy. And my final question, did you say on a podcast, and I quote, I wouldn't leave abortion to the states. My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have the government involved, even if it's full term. Did you say that, Mr. Kennedy?
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy? This
believe
matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true, that's not reflective of what you really believe, that you haven't said over decade after decade after decade, because unlike other jobs we're confirming around this place, this is a job where it is life and death for the kids that I used to work for in the Denver public schools and for families all over this country that are suffering from living in the richest country of the world that can't deliver basic health care and basic mental health care to them. It's too important for the games that you're playing, Mr. Kennedy. And I hope my colleagues will say to the president, I have no influence over him. I hope my colleagues will say to the president, out of 330 million Americans, we can do better than this.
Yes, we can. We can do better than this. Good job, Senator Bennett. Finally, a Democrat showing a little bit of guts. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just lied under oath. The statement he made about transgenders, 100% on the record. There's video and audio of him saying that. He lied. These are the statements that he has made in the past, and I'm sure he'll make more crazy statements like this in the future. Does anybody care? Does anybody in office care? He also lied on my show. Either he lied on my show or he lied under oath today. Because you see, in the proceedings today, he said all of his kids were vaccinated, which I find bizarre considering what an anti-vaccine guy he is, even though he claims not to be. All his kids he claims were vaccinated. I asked him the same question. First, he said all his kids were vaccinated. Then he said half his kids were vaccinated. And then he admitted to committing a felony right here on this show. Have a listen to this. Your kids did receive the vaccinations, correct?
Some of my, you mean on COVID, my kids are fully vaccinated with their child vaccines.
So if you didn't, so I think
On
it's a fair
COVID,
question.
on COVID, a couple of my kids, I'd say half of my kids took it and half of them didn't. I got 7 kids.
Understood. So your position is you think the vaccinations, the COVID vaccines are unproven to be safe. So if that was the case, why did you allow some of your kids to take them?
Well, if you remember at that time, there was tremendous pressure to take them. You couldn't attend college if you didn't take them.
But they could have been homeschooled, right? You could have brought them to private school. You didn't do that. That's my question to you.
Listen, I have adult kids. I don't know how old your kids are.
I don't have any.
Right. Okay. Well, believe me, your ability to influence your kids after a certain age basically approaches zero. Oh, and I raised my kids to disagree with me, to challenge me, but also to tell the truth. Oh, I offered my kids vaccine cards and said, I don't want you to take this product because I had read the clinical trial data.
I offered my kids vaccine cards, meaning I made fake vaccine cards to offer my kids so they didn't have to take the vaccine. He also said half his kids took the vaccinations on my show. You just heard that. Then he says under oath today that all his kids were vaccinated. Well, which one is it? You're either lying on my show or you're lying under oath. And then he says, I taught my kids to tell the truth. All this guy does is lie and backtrack. That's all he did today. It's a joke. You know who I do not believe is lying? His cousin, Caroline Kennedy. Now, listen, I've had RFK Jr.'s sister on this show who was campaigning for Kamala Harris. I've never spoken to Caroline Kennedy, but she put out a statement yesterday, and she's been silent for a while. But she put out a statement about her crazy cousin, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Have a listen to what Caroline Kennedy had to say about RFK Jr.
I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He's always been charismatic, able to attract others through the strength of his personality, his willingness to take risks and break the rules. I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence.
I mean, how bizarre is that behavior? Almost as bizarre as, putting a whale head on the top of your car or staging a bear murder in Central Park. Why is it that these MAGA Republicans don't care? As long as Donald Trump chooses somebody, they're going to go to Sir Orange Cheeto Jesus Leader, no matter who it is. And all these MAGA Republicans out there that are so anti-abortion, I'm not going to call them pro-life because they're not pro-life. They're anti-abortion. They're so, put on that as abortion is murder. And you have a guy who Donald Trump chose who literally you probably couldn't find somebody who's more pro-abortion than Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's even said on the record that he believes a woman should have the right to choose even in full term. But all of a sudden, these evangelical MAGA right-wing turds are willing to put that off to the side because their Cheeto Jesus 34-count felon leader will be upset at them if they don't vote in Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because they have no morals, they have no character. And Caroline Kennedy continues with her cousin's bizarre behavior and things that he said on the record.
Bobby continues to grandstand off my father's assassination and that of his own father. It's incomprehensible to me that someone who is willing to exploit their own painful family tragedies for publicity would be put in charge of America's life and death situations. Unlike Bobby, I try not to speak for my father, but I am certain that he and my Uncle Bobby, who gave their lives in public service to our country, and my Uncle Teddy, who devoted his long Senate career to the cause of improving health care, would be disgusted.
Those are really strong words. Now, it won't matter to these MAGA Republicans out there. They're going to vote him in anyway because Sir Cheeto Jesus, the king, the grand wizard, tells them to do so. And don't even get me started with Nicole Shanahan. If you don't know who Nicole Shanahan is, and I would imagine many of you probably don't, she's a complete imbecile who got rich not from hard work in her life, but from her ex-husband, who was a gazillionaire. So she's a very wealthy woman because of a man who she leached off of. Very similar, by the way, to our First Lady right now, in some aspects anyway. And Nicole Shanahan, who ran as Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s running mate, saying that if you don't vote Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in, I'm going to put all this money in to vote you out of office. Have a listen to Nicole Shanahan's stupid threats.
I will make it my personal mission that you lose your seats in the Senate if you vote against the future health of America's children. And more than that, I also want to say to Senators Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, Cory Booker, John Fetterman, Bernie Sanders, and Catherine Cortez Masto, this is a bipartisan message, and it comes directly from me. While Bobby may be willing to play nice, I won't. If you vote against him, I will personally fund challengers to primary you in your next election, and I will enlist hundreds of thousands to join me.
Hi, I'm Nicole Shanahan, and I'm going to use my ex-husband's money. And I'm going to primary all of you politicians. If you don't vote Bobby in, Bobby can play nice, but I won't. I'm going to use my ex-husband's money. And I'm going to make sure to go after you because I have nothing better to do in my life but to spread conspiracy theories just like Bobby and use my ex-husband's money and put it to good use. What an imbecile this woman is. A very ignorant, stupid woman. And that's who, by the way, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. picked as his running mate for her money. Or shall we say her ex-husband's money. Listen to these imbeciles. This is a man who spread conspiracy theories not only about vaccines, but transgenders. And I would be willing to at least go as far as to say that this woman, Nicole Shanahan, is probably no smarter than a lot of the MAGA supporters who voted in Donald Trump. And now she's threatening sitting politicians if they don't vote in this conspiracy theorist piece of human scum. Why do I call Robert F. Kennedy a piece of human scum? Because I disagree with him on vaccines? No. Because he spreads conspiracy theories that can harm or kill people? Well, that's certainly a part of it. What about his ex-wife, who committed suicide after reading his diary that he openly admitted to writing on the habitual cheating? What about all the women he's cheated on? What about the predator, says his own cousin? Don't you find it interesting that we have some similarities between Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Pete Hegseth, who was already voted in as the Secretary of Defense? Don't you find it interesting that Pete Hegseth, his own mother, called him a woman abuser? Members of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s immediate family, like Caroline Kennedy, have called him a predator. It is a prerequisite for Donald J. Trump. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could probably get a job on Fox News because that seems to be a prerequisite there as well. Habitual cheaters, liars, woman abusers, people who treat women like absolute garbage. Garbage. Conspiracy theorists. People that are unqualified for the job. Make no mistake about it. I ran into Robert F. Kennedy Jr. several times. I've had conversations with him in person. I've talked about that on the air. He is a liar. He is a cheater. He is a conspiracy theorist. He makes money off of people who are struggling in this country. He will continue to make money on lawsuits. And if you saw Elizabeth Warren questioning RFK Jr., and I also thought she did a pretty good job, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if sworn into this position, will be making money in lawsuits, pushing others to sue the pharmaceutical companies when it comes to vaccines. And if they win, he's getting 10%. He already made $2.5 million off of these lawsuits. Think about that. The position that he is in, the pressure that he can put on certain entities so that he can capitalize off it and he can make money off of it. Talk about a conflict of interest, but the Republicans don't care because I go back to what I said earlier. All they care about is their orange turd leader telling them what to do because they're in fear that they will lose power. They care more about that than the American people. Make no mistake about it, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a conspiracy theorist. He's a liar. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is dangerous, and he will be sworn in. I will be shocked if he's not. And these MAGA Republican morons out there, they know that he's unqualified, just like they know Pete Hegseth is unqualified. They know that Tulsi Gabbard is unqualified. They know that so many of these people that are going to be in Trump's administration are totally unqualified. But they also know if they speak truth to power, they are in trouble. Now, maybe they're not afraid of Nicole Shanahan, but they're certainly afraid of the MAGA cult. RFK Jr. is a dangerous man. RFK Jr. has no plan. And that's, there's so much in this testimony to dissect. But the worst thing of it all is forget about all the conspiracy theories and all the things that he said on the record that are absolute crazy. What did he say today? What was his plan? He talked about the stuff in food that we eat. And he only said, well, I want people to know what they're eating. Okay, that's not a policy. What is your policy? What are you going to do about it? He had no plan. Nothing put in place on how you're going to do certain things. Saying I want people to know what's in the food that you're eating is not a plan.